Hi again, brother teacher. When you go to a restaurant, do you tip the waitress or the waiter? I do. Yeah, I know it's not mandatory. You're not obligated to tip. It's just simply a courtesy. It's good to do. Um, but there's a condition by which I tip. It is always based on service for the most part. Now, do I go in there wearing this on my sleeve? Absolutely not. I don't go in there into any restaurant anticipating that I'm going to get or receive bad service. But I go in there also with the understanding that that's a potential thing. But for the most part, if you have an issue with your meal or with the service when you go into a restaurant on a regular basis, might not be something wrong with the waitress or waiter or even the food that you receive. It might be something wrong with you. So I say that to say this. Getting back to the tips, uh, they have a percentage that they think is reasonable to tip based on the amount of money that you spend in the restaurant industry. And I think it's right around 14, 50% of what your total bill is nowadays. Howbeit, I don't think that you necessarily have to tip that particular percentage. I think you should tip according to what you have to tip or what you desire to tip. Now, if you spend $100 on a meal for your family and you give the waitress or waiter $1, I think that's pretty wrong. It's raw, as some might say. Now, if you spend $100 on your family and it's four or five of you, let's just not too many people spend that who are working poor necessarily. But if you are working and you spend approximately $100 for a meal, give them at least 10%, $10. Okay. Now, if they've done greater service or you think they're well deserving of more, then do that as well without any hesitation. Just simply do it. And let's say you spend $10 on your meal. You might say in your mind, it's only $10. Why do I have to give them a tip? For a $10 meal. It's just courtesy again. Think of it on these terms. Most of the people that work in the restaurant industry work there for a reason. Oftentimes, it's based on their education or lack thereof, or the fact that that's probably the only job that they can do at that particular time. Or it's probably a job that they have had for quite a while, or they could be working it as an additional job to provide for their families. We just never know. But we should also bear that in mind that those are human beings that's working for a living and they're trying their, as we used to say, level best to assist you and make things as pleasing for you, the consumer slash customer, as possible. So please bear that in mind the next time you go into a restaurant when you consider tipping and try to tip. Because if the shoe was on the other foot and you were the person that's waiting on someone else and you're doing the very best that you possibly can in service, from a service standpoint, when you want it to be considered as a decent servant, I should say, if you will, for lack of a better word. But if I was serving someone in a restaurant as a waiter, I would hope that they would consider my service and tip me, but I'm not, on the flip side, I'm not going to be expecting anything in particular. And I'm not going to be upset with the patron for not tipping me because I understand the parameters of the job that I have. I understand the consequences. I understand that there are people who tip, there are people who don't tip. Why am I going to hold any ill will or feeling towards a patron because they did not tip? Because on the reverse side, I don't know their situation. The person that's feeding their family or themselves that particular day, they could have just gotten out of a bad relationship with someone. Or they could have just been in an argument with a loved one and they're just there to vent while they're eating a meal. They could have little money, but just enough at that particular time to pay for the meal. So it could be a whole lot of different reasons why people don't tip. But don't look at them under a magnifying glass. It's not necessary. So don't forget, you're the one who chose that occupation, not the patron. But on tipping again, to conclude, when I go into a restaurant, I always look forward to tipping because I'm not only enjoying a meal, but I'm also helping the person who's serving that meal to me. That was it. What is your viewpoint? This is Brother Teacher. Leave your comments in the comment section below. Much love. So long.